Morning, all of you. Thank you for joining this sixth day of 2 month long webinar series on artificial intelligence and data science. Today with us we have Dr. Sandeep Raj from IIIT Bhagalpur, and his talk would be moreover focused on AI for healthcare, where he would, I think, would be sharing his own experiences on his own project. So briefly telling about his profile, Sandeep Raj has received his BTech degree in electrical and electronics from Allahabad Agricultural Institute in 2009. He is a gold medalist in MTech in 2011, and he's completed PhD degree from Department of Electrical, IIT Patna in 2018. He also received DST Inspire Fellowship awarded by DST Government of India for pursuing his PhD. We are privileged to have you, sir. Currently, he is working in IIIT Bhagalpur in various capacities. His current research interests include AI, biomedical signal processing, embedded systems, machine learning, and Internet of Things. So this is great, sir. This is great opportunity for all the participants and us to hear your thoughts. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Saketji. Thank you for the introduction. First of all, I would like to pay sincere gratitude to the Honorable Director, CDAC Patna, Adit sir, for providing me this opportunity to share my research with you all the participants. And thank you, Saketji, for coordinating this webinar series on the lectures. So today I will be discussing on the AI for healthcare in a particular domain, which is for the development of the ECG monitoring devices. So I will be sharing my PPT. So is the PPT visible? Yeah. So today's presentation will be on the topic recent trends in artificial intelligence methods for the development of ECG monitoring devices. So in this lecture, we will find that how artificial intelligence will be helping us in the development of handheld or homemade devices like we use blood pressure devices, sugar devices, similar kind of devices we are trying to make using the AI methods to make our devices intelligent. So the outline will be brief about the introduction, why I will be discussing only on the topic ECG, the motivation objective, a brief literature survey, work done, followed by the conclusion and future scope, and the references. So to start with the introduction part, I would like to highlight here is that the cardiovascular diseases are the leading causes of deaths in the world as per the WHO report of 2013. And coronary heart diseases has risen from 1% in 1960 to 11% in 2003 and 14% in 2011 in India's urban population. 1 in 4 deaths in India are now because of the cardiovascular disease, with ischemic heart disease and stroke responsible for more than 80% of the burden of the deaths. This is due to the reason that around 60% in the hospitals in India are located in the urban areas and cater to only 30% of the population. And only 13% of the rural population have access to the primary healthcare facility and less than 10% to the hospitals. So what we are trying to make out from this? We are actually trying to make a decision support system for the doctors to detect the abnormalities going currently through the heart of a person. So the most commonly used tool for measuring the status of heart or for estimating the status of heart is the ECG. And ECG is the graphical representation of bioelectric signal that can be used as a non-invasive diagnostic tool to interpret and determine the medical state of the heart. So in this figure, this is a moving picture. We can see that there are two upper chambers, the left hand side and the right hand side, which are known as the atrias. and the lower chambers are known as the ventricles. And this, the dotted one is the node, which is known as the sinoatrial node, which shoots. So in this picture, there are two upper chambers, the left hand side and the right hand side. And these chambers are known as the atrias. And the lower chambers are known as the ventricles. The left atrias, right atrias, left ventricles, and the right ventricles. And they have a physical meaning. Like the heart goes three processes, which is known as the atrial depolarization, ventricular depolarization, and the ventricular repolarization. In the case of ventricular atrial depolarization, whenever the blood shoots from the sinoatrial node, there is a generation of a wave which is known as the P wave, and it has a fixed amplitude and a time for during its occurrence. And any change in this wave has its own clinical significance, which is termed as the atrial enlargement, which leads to flutter and fibrillations. Flutter means the heart rate goes beyond 100 to 200 to 250, which we will see later. What are the irregularities in the rhythms of the heart? There is a small pause which is caused as the AV node. This is the AV node. This is the node joining in between the atrias and the ventriculars. And during this delay, a delay is caused between the P wave and the ventricular repolarization wave, which is known as the PR segment. This is the associated pattern. Here we can see that it is the PR segment. So this leads to the heart block. Its clinical significance, it leads to heart block. And the second process which the heart undergoes is the ventricular depolarization, in which the heart shoots up and the more amount of blood is moved from the atria to the ventriculars, and it leads to the generation of the QRS wave. This QRS wave is generated to the ventricular repolarization process going in the heart. So this is the QRS wave, and its clinical significance in terms of irregularities can have lead to the myocardial infarction. Likewise, the last process is the ventricular repolarization, which leads to the generation of the T wave in the ECG. So a complete ECG waves look like this, and it starts from the P wave, the atrial depolarization, the PR segment due to the delay in between the AV node, the atrial ventricular node, and the QRS wave is generated to the ventricular depolarization, and there again is a delay for the third process, which is the ventricular repolarization, and then the T wave is generated. So a ECG is classified to normal and abnormal based on the amplitude and period of each wave generated. So more particularly, they have a fixed time duration and amplitude for its occurrence. For example, whenever a person is sitting inside a home, he may have a heart rate around 80, depending on the age, he may be having around 80 to 95 beats per minute. So this is a complete ECG wave, and we also say as a ECG bit, BEAT, ECG bit. So this is a complete cycle or one complete cycle of the heart processes. So they have a fixed amplitude and period. So when a person is sitting inside a home, he may be having a heart rate of around 80 to 95, or normally it can go up to 100 also. But whenever the same person is in working mode or he is running, the heart rate goes above 100 to 120, 125. That doesn't mean that the heart is working improperly. The only point I want to make here is ECG signals are the non-stationary signals, and they are very sensitive. And we will see that in today's picture, there is no such device which is present, which can process the ECG bit by bit classification. So we generally classify the ECG on the basis of 2 points, the heart rate and the morphology. If the heart rate goes beyond the 100 beats per minute, it is known as the tachyarrhythmia. This arrhythmia is generally the irregularities in the heart. And if the heart rate goes beyond the 60 beats per minute, it is known as the bradyarrhythmia or bradycardia, tachycardia and bradycardia. And they are more classified if the heart rate is between 250 to 350, it is known as the flutter. And if the heart rate goes beyond 350, it is known as the fibrillation case, which is the very unfortunate one. Normally, a patient of different age groups may have a heart rate between 60 beats per minute to 100 beats per minute. So this was the classification basis on the heart rate. So there are some devices which classifies the heart rhythms on the basis of heart rate. In this lecture, we will be focusing on the morphology of the ECG signals. Morphology means the appearance of the signals, how they appear. Some of the irregularities, rhythms generated from the sinoatrial node means if there is some kind of blockage in the sinoatrial node or there is some kind of defect, then it leads to the generation of the sinus arrhythmias, which are subclassified into sinus bradycardia, tachycardia, or tachybrady syndrome. If some kind of mishappening goes through the atrial tissue, myocardial tissue, it leads to the generation of atrial arrhythmias, atrial tachycardia, flutter, or fibrillation. Similarly, for the atrioventricular node, AV node, junction arrhythmias are generated and they are again subclassified into first degree heart block, second degree heart block, and third degree heart blocks. The third degree heart block is the most unfortunate one, which leads to the cardiac death of a patient. If the abnormalities arises in the ventriculars, in the lower chambers of the heart, then it leads to the generation of ventricular arrhythmias or ventricular tachycardia, flutter, or fibrillation. So these are the some of the morphologies of the second degree heart block. You can see that there is no fixed length of the ECG signals. Here, this one, the delay is a long period. And in the atrial flutter case, we have a heart rate in between 250 to 350. So these are certain kinds of the abnormalities which one may have, and the arrhythmias basically we call it as a differential diagnosis systems. Since in future, if a patient is having such kind of irregularities in the heart, if proper attention and care is not been given, then he may lead to serious cardiac diseases in future. So the existing monitoring systems, what we found in hospitals are the Holter monitors or Holter machines, and the signals are analyzed by the physician offline. The loop recorders, we have two types of loop recorders. One of them is implanted inside the body, and one is for the outside the body, means one is for the invasive and the non-invasive one. So in case of loop recorders also, only recording is performed up to an extent of 3 months. Rather, no real-time classification is performed. There are the other devices also like Vitaphone, MeditSense system, Active ECG, where also analysis is not performed where the signal is acquired. The signals are only being recorded and then they are analyzed by a cardiologist at a distance place, and we call it as remote real-time monitoring. There are also devices based on the smartphones and PDAs. They partly provide real-time monitoring, but they fail to provide a complete cardiovascular diagnosis, disease diagnosis solutions. In all of the devices, HP monitoring systems perform a little They have a little better performance as they uses the Lowen algorithm, which reported the highest accuracy and in detection of the ventricular hypertrophy. So in HP monitoring systems, what we have found out is they are able to classify more than 5 classes of heart rhythms based on the heart rate. And partly they provide the classification based on the morphology. So these were the limitations of the existing devices. Now coming to the motivation, the devices performing ECG monitoring are huge in size and they are restricted to the hospitals and they are not commonly affordable by the common people since they involve high cost. To the best of my knowledge, there is no such device which is capable of providing continuous real-time monitoring and diagnosis of cardiovascular diseases. So there is a demand of real-time and automatic diagnostic solution to develop an efficient algorithms and their implementation on suitable hardware platforms for the development of a low-cost and portable device for real-time and automatic diagnosis of cardiovascular diseases. So the main aim of this lecture is to develop a low-cost, homemade or handheld device at low cost so that a patient sitting at his home, his or her home, can have their current cardiac status. So the main objectives are, so here comes the role of AI. First of all, we want to give an automatic solution and we want our machines to be intelligent. So the AI will serve both the purposes since the automation will be given by either the hardware or the software, but we want the machines to be intelligent, so we will apply the AI in this regard. So for this purpose, we will study and propose new efficient methods for feature extraction and classification of ECG signals. To develop and prototype these proposed methods using commercially available embedded hardware platforms means the methods which we have developed, we have implemented them on the commercially available hardware platforms. And finally, we have designed and fabricated a PCB-based customized hardware. And we have implemented the best method in terms of accuracy and computational complexity of the algorithm so that we can get a real-time output using the AI methods. So AI is so coming to the scope, the proposed methods are simulated using MATLAB. First of all, in the initial purpose to check the accuracy and all of the stuff, we have proposed the methods and tested them in the MATLAB and further developed using the C++ programming language, and they have been prototyped on the commercially available hardware platforms. The prototype developed using the different methods are validated using the benchmark MIT BIH arrhythmia database in the laboratory experimental setup. And finally, we have developed a customized hardware. So on the left-hand side, we will see that on the left-hand side of the image, we can see that there is a box which is actually a arbitrary function generator in which the real-time ECG signals are generated using the text files of the MIT BIH arrhythmia database. And the output, this is actually a 2-channel arbitrary function generator, 200 megahertz. And its output is taken to the ARM processor. This is a commercially available ARM processor, 32-bit 400 megahertz processor. And here the proposed methods are implemented using the C++ programming language. So the signals are applied, the output of the function generated are taken to the ARM processor using the ADC. This processor is having a 12-bit ADC and it processes the AI methods, which we will discuss a bit later. And then after, the output is displayed on the 7-segment display. This is written as APB. APB is arrhythmia, which is the atrial premature bits. In short, since we have a 7-segment display, so we can't go beyond 8 The size of the letters were not more than it. So we have taken as the APB in short. And the morphology of the signals are displayed on the digital storage oscilloscope. And finally, we have fabricated a PCB-based handheld device, which looks like this, and it has a ST microelectronics ARM processor. It is also a 32-bit processor, and this is a 16 cross 2 LCD liquid crystal display. And the output which we are seeing in the 7-segment display in the fabricated device, we have just integrated a 16 cross 2 LCD to view the classification of bits. So this is only possible, we can make the machines intelligent using the artificial intelligence. So the typical applications of the, I will not go in much detail on the basics of artificial intelligence, but I will discuss briefly regarding them. So basically, artificial intelligence, any technique that enables computer to mimic human intelligence using logic, if-then rules, decision trees, and machine learning including deep learning. So the main aim of this, you can say, the project is to replace a doctor to an extent, and making the patients also intelligent, and they can gather the information regarding their current status of the heart. So the machine learning is a subset of AI that includes the abstract statistical techniques. These techniques we will see a bit later. And the typical applications for the artificial intelligence can be the early detection, the diagnosis. It can help in the decision making, treatment, and the research purpose and training. So starting with the machine learning teaches computers to do what they naturally do. Humans and animals learn from experience. So this is basically the definition of machine learning. Machine learning algorithms use computational methods to learn information directly from data without relying on the predetermined equation of a model. There are various definitions given, and their typical applications can be found in the computational finance for credit scoring and algorithmic trading, image processing and computer vision for face recognition, motion detection, computational biology for tumor detection, drug delivery, energy production for price and load forecasting, and many more, including the NLP, natural language processing. So the main machine learning works on the basis of two techniques, the unsupervised and the supervised learning, the clustering, the unsupervised where the group and interpret data based on the input data only, and they have no predetermined classes or labels are being given. So using the clustering technique, we can solve such kind of problems. But in this project, we will focus more on the supervised learning since we have the levels of our inputs. And so in the supervised learning, we can go for the classification and the regression applications. Now, directly coming to the feature extraction and the classification methods, since what type of data we deal in this project is the signals. So we have to process the signals. So we will be applying many feature extraction methods to capture the significant features from all this kind of arrhythmias, different arrhythmias. So many methods have been reported in literature like Fourier transform, short time Fourier transform, Wavelet transform, Stockwell transform, empirical mode decomposition, Hilbert-Huang transform. There are many more methods like principal component analysis, independent component analysis. They have their own advantages and disadvantages. In Fourier transform, as we know, we can gather the information about the frequency components, but we do not have the information about the time of occurrence of these frequency components. The short time Fourier transform, it overcomes the ambiguities of Fourier transform by providing a constant window, but the selection of the size of a window remains a challenge since As I have discussed earlier, the ECG signal is a non-stationary signal. So its probability distribution function gradually changes, and it is not practically possible to use a constant window for a non-stationary signals. So wavelet transform is a more better option in comparison to the short time Fourier transform. It uses longer windows at lower frequencies and shorter windows at higher frequencies. However, the proper selection of a mother wavelet and sampling frequency for extracting the frequency components is a major factor. In the case of Stockwell transforms, the choice of the window parameters are selected optimally to preserve time frequency information, and it is computationally redundant. Empirical mode decomposition is simply influenced by the noise associated with the signal. So in case of empirical mode decomposition, it involves higher computational complexity, and we have to take care about the noise associated to the signals, and for that purpose we will design better filters for this to serve the purpose. In the classification methods, I have used personally the artificial neural network support vector machines, the kth nearest neighbor, and the k-means clustering. These are some of the literature works which have been reported previously, and many features that have been taken are the time domain features. These are the waveform features regarding the amplitude and the time of occurrence of the various waves, which I have discussed earlier. And these are the classifiers, the machine learning tools. So in the case of RR intervals are taken as features. These are the transforms. PCA is the feature extraction or the dimensionality reduction tool. So likewise, many people have developed many kind of tools for the classification of ECG signals. In this lecture, I will be discussing these 5 work done in a brief. So in the first work, I have taken the RR intervals of the ECG signals as features. These are the time domain features. And the classifier which has been used is the knowledge-based approach. In this classifier, we have used the if-else condition, and the algorithm was pre-existing. Only we have tested on the FPGA-based hardware platform. In work done 2, we have used the principal component analysis along with the backpropagation neural networks to classify 6 classes of arrhythmias or the 6 classes of abnormalities. In another work, we have used the FFT-based DWT. FFT is the fast Fourier transform-based discrete wavelet transform, along with the backpropagation neural networks to classify 8 classes of abnormalities of the heart. In the another work, DOST has been used as a feature extraction tool, which is the discrete orthogonal Stockwell transform. As we have discussed earlier, it is an advanced form of the Stockwell transform. And the classifier which has been used is the least square support vector machine, twin support vector machines. And the classifier parameters like the cost function and the kernel parameters are optimized using the artificial V-colony method. In another work, DCT-based DOST has been proposed, and the same classifier has been used to classify the 16 different classes of abnormalities of the heart. And in fifth work done, the convolutional, that is the deep learning methods have been used to classify the 16 classes of arrhythmias. So in the knowledge-based approach, there are 3 stages in the work done 1. The first one is the pre-processing stage. In the pre-processing stage, we actually process the input signals, and the main aim of this pre-processing stage is the filtering. There are different kinds of noises associated with the input signals, and we aim to remove them before the classification purpose. So the pre-processing stage is followed by the decision stage, in which We will first of all detect the R peak. We will see a bit later in detail about this decision stage. And finally, there will be a set of rules in the classifier stage, and we will be classifying four classes of ECG bits. So the whole method or the whole knowledge-based approach can be, we can have an idea using this block diagram. The ECG signals are being taken and they are passed through the filtering stage. Two filters, different kind of filters are being used, the linear and the non-linear filters. Then after we have applied a Pan-Tompkins algorithm to detect the R peak, and then we have computed the RR intervals, and finally we have applied the tools for classification. So starting with the Pan-Tompkins algorithm, it was proposed by Pan and Tompkins in 1985, and it is employed for to detect the R peak. So the first stage is the linear filtering, in which we have used the cascading of the high pass and the low pass filters, or you can say it is a case of a band pass filter also. And then after we have applied a derivative operator, means we have just taken the differentiation of using this equation. And finally, we can see that after applying the cascading of high pass and low pass filters, the raw ECG signal is finally filtered into this kind of form. So the noise associated to the signals are being removed using the high pass and the low pass filters which we have used. The gain of the high pass filter was 35 and the cutoff frequency was 40 Hz, and the low pass filters, it was having a cutoff frequency of 5 Hz. In the case of non-linear filtering, we have squared the derivative operator, which we have received in the previous stage. So it is a case of non-linear filtering. And finally, we have applied a moving window integrator to detect the R peak and placed some thresholds are being placed. These are the dynamic thresholds. A set of rules are there. So subsequently, R peaks are detected and RR intervals between the consecutive ECG signals are being computed like this. So after being squaring the peaks of this are being detected using this thresholds. These are dynamic thresholds and they vary and they are pretty good in detecting the ECG signals of different frequencies. And this is the knowledge-based classification algorithm. And these are the set of rules which we have followed. And we have implemented this algorithm using the C++ programming language. And finally, it has been implemented using the FPGA-based hardware platform. Actually, it is having a soft core IP processor of TSK 3000 A processor, in which the inputs are similarly taken from the arbitrary function generator, and they have been applied to a 12-bit ADC, and the processor processes it. So these are the basic different steps to design the environment of the hardware. And finally, the analog ECG signals are generated from the benchmark MIT BIH arrhythmia database. So this is a arbitrary function generator again, and its output is taken to the ADC of the embedded platform. And a total number of 10,800 signals were taken, in which 6,000 signals were of the normal, 4,000 signals of the PVC type, the pre-ventricular contraction beat, ventricular flutter, and 2-degree heart block beats. So the predicted output classes developed by the platform are being displayed on the TFT. Actually, this is not very clear since the brightness of the TFT was very high. So the output is displayed on this TFT, and we have compared the output with the annotated file for formulating the confusion matrix to compute the statistical parameters such as sensitivity and specificity of the proposed platform. So these are the very significant parameters. So using this confusion matrix, we can see that out of the 6,000 normal signals, we are able to correctly classify 5,921 only, and the rest are being classified into the PVC, VF, the ventricular fibrillation, preventricular contraction, and 2-degree heart bit. And similarly, out of 4,000 PVC bit, only 3,878 bits have been correctly classified into the PVC class, and the rest are being classified into the normal ventricular fibrillation and the 2-degree heart block bit. And similarly, by calculating the correctly classified and incorrectly classified signals, we have found out that the accuracy of the proposed platform was 97.98%. Now comes the most important part in the healthcare is the sensitivity and the specificity of the platforms. So these are calculated on the basis of the true positive, false negative, and the true negative cases. So the true positive is the total number of correctly classified bits to a particular class. So diagonally in the 4x4 matrix, since we are classifying 4 different classes of ECG signals, or we can say that we are classifying 4 different kind of abnormalities associated to the heart, including the normal. So these diagonal numbers are the correctly classified events to a particular class, and they falls into the category of true positive. The false positive case is the total number of misclassified events into the desired class. The false negative is the total number of misclassified events of a particular class. And the true negative is the total number of classified or misclassified events to the other classes. In many cases, we have also found out that the specificity is defined only for the normal cases, and the sensitivity is defined for the diseased cases. So for this platform, the overall sensitivity was 97.972%, the specificity was 99.09%, and the positive predictive rate was 96.46%. So now the conclusion of this work is the yes, hello,
Hello. Hello,
hello,
Sandeep sir.
yes,
Yeah, Jay this side, sir. Sorry for interruption.
yeah, yeah,
Sir,
yeah,
I have a doubt.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
from where I can get a valuable data set for from where I can get a valuable data set for training my model if I want to do some research on this.
yeah, 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 sir. Should I share the site?
That would be helpful, sir.
One sec.
And one more doubt, sir.
We
If
can also
want to
put
be an
the
research,
link in the
yeah,
chat, Sandeep sir, if you want.
Okay, yes, sir. It is
and one more
PhysioNet.
question, sir.
Yes.
Sir, if I want to do some research work in this in this field, what would be the good roadmap to start and how to begin and where to start, like where to get the guidelines and stuff and all that?
Sir, presently there is no as such guidelines, but the best model, see, many people have, you can see that I have published 20 to 25 papers in this project, only in this project.
Yes, sir.
My point is until you are validating or testing in the medical scenario or the patients in the real time scenario, it will not be valuable by doing the experiments in the laboratory. I have
Okay.
a few videos for that purpose also. That's why I
Okay.
have. So you can, if you are new to the domain, you can
Mm-hmm.
for to start with, you can just go and collect the data from the MIT BIH database, which is a PhysioNet website. It has more than, I think it has 40 to 50 databases of different kind of related to the heart abnormalities.
And
You may,
this is already openly available, correct?
yeah, 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 open available.
Okay.
Physionet.org. You can go to the website Physionet ATM.
Mhm.
and you can find
Okay.
out.
Okay. Okay.
It is commonly available for everyone.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
only in this, actually the limitation of this work was whatever the rules we have discussed in the decision stage was it was only limited to the 3 or 4 classes, including the normal. So we want to expand this knowledge-based approach into the machine learning approach, and we want to extend the number of different class of heart diseases or the heart abnormalities actually. So it has a limitation to classify few classes of ECG signals due to its constraints of high precision knowledge of heart rate or RR interval, and we aim to incorporate more number of ECG bits. So this has been done using the further machine learning techniques, and this is
Sir,
my work done.
like, okay, sir, but if I get a model and I want to,
Sir,
what I
actually,
get to
which
know
kind
is
of
like
model you are talking of?
for the healthcare system, sir. Healthcare system,
Sir,
as you
healthcare
discussed
system
about
is
the,
a very broad one, means
like in,
related.
like you have, you're talking about the X-rays of chest. Like
Yes.
this only, if want to, I being a fresher, if I want to have a career in this or want to get more enhanced knowledge in this, so can you suggest couple of things like where to get the knowledge or training or sort of things?
You have to read papers, journals, good journals,
Okay, good general papers. Can you suggest some of them?
and you have to regularly take the feedback of the doctors also. Like as you have said the about the X-rays, I have also worked in the X-rays. If I will get time, I will just have a demo in a couple of minutes regarding the X-rays also. And we are in a regular touch with the ICMR, and I have also personally discussed with the DG ICMR, Professor Balram Bhargav, and there is a committee constituted for this software and the hardware which we have developed at Triple IT Bhagalpur. And the chairman of this committee is Professor Ramdeep Guleria, Director AIMS Delhi. So you
Okay,
have
sir.
to take the regular feedback from the doctors also, other than reading the good papers. Because there are several
Okay, sir.
practical challenges when you will face when you are delivering a product to a market. Yes, sir.
I seriously feel, Sandeep sir, with your permission, I seriously feel seeing the depth of your topic, we would have to schedule one more session for you.
नहीं सर मैं इसको
Yeah, it's quite
I will.
interesting and yeah, it's quite interesting and we would like to have one more session with him.
Because AI for healthcare is what I also got a lot of
No,
curiosity.
I can just brief up. If you don't have time, I can just brief up using this video also. This is a video which I have developed in my laboratory, and you can see that these are the real-time signals, and they have been taken from the MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and they have collaborated with the Beth Israel Hospital, and the database was developed in 1975, which I am talking of. And when you will just write on the Google regarding the PhysioNet, you will find there are all databases available there. So whenever abnormality is detected, the warning is displayed on the 7 segment, this is a 16:2 LED, LCD, and you will find that a warning is displayed and a buzzer is also displayed, which I uh, will see in the later video. So what will happen is the signals are taken to the ARM processor. It is having a Linux kernel and 32-bit processor it is, and the methods actually the artificial neural networks means for training purpose I have used the artificial neural networks, backpropagation neural networks, and they have been implemented on this processor. And in this work we have classified, I think, 6 classes using the PCA based technique. Actually it is a feature dimensionality technique. Feature dimensionality means it is basically to reduce the time and computational complexity of an algorithm. Since the original signal was of length 1 cross 256, Let me, I think I have to go with paint. Is paint available to all? 1 minute. What happens is, if suppose this is a ECG signal, so what we are doing is we are performing bit by bit classification. So ECG is basically a continuous signal and it will go continuously. So what we are doing is, first of all, we are trying to detect this R peak. This is a QRS wave, and this is detected using the Pan-Tompkins algorithms. So one may ask that why I have used the Pan-Tompkins algorithm. Also, I have published a review paper in this regard. Regarding the Pan-Tompkins algorithm, it has reported the highest accuracy in detecting the R peak. Plus, it has the lowest computational complexity. Means the number of operations performed to detect the R peak within this signal is lesser in comparison to the other algorithms used. So what we are doing is, initially we are taking a window to segment these signals, since they will be again continuing like this, and we are performing bit by bit classification, bit by bit classification, one by one. So that's why it is like this. So pre-processing, R peak detection, feature extraction, and again the classification using the machine learning algorithms. So 12 tap low pass filter is used for removing the different kind of noises associated to the signals. There are many kind of noises like power line interference, baseline wander. Many kind of noises are associated to the ECG signals. And this is basically the Pan-Tompkins algorithm, which I have discussed in the previous work also. And I have used the PCA based technique. It is a statistical technique and it is based on some of the mathematical formulations. And finally, I have taken the 5 PCs only. 5 PCs means the originally the signal was of dimension 1 cross 256, and finally it has been reduced to 1 cross 5, and it has been done due to reduce the timing, training time and the testing time of the machines. As we know that the hardware has a lot of restrictions in terms of memory. So if I will consider a signal of very large length, then it will require more time for computation and it will take more memory in the hardware. And all of these algorithms have been written in C++ programming language and they have been implemented like this. So it will give a better idea. All the techniques have been fitted into this ARM processor, and the output is displayed using the 716 cross 2 LCD, and the morphology is displayed on the dual digital oscilloscope, digital storage oscilloscope, DSO. It is a 16 channel. And finally, the accuracy for this work was reported to be 92.8%. So we were not able to achieve more accuracy, but we have increased the level of detection of abnormalities inside the heart. Likewise, we have implemented the wavelet-based technique, the FFT-based DWT. The FFT used in the implementation of DWT is due to the fact to reduce the computational complexity of the DWT algorithm. It is a wavelet algorithm. In wavelet algorithm, we can extract the timing as well as the amplitude frequency features of the input signals. So ECG signals are being taken. Again, they are pre-processed using some filters, and the R peak is detected. So we can see that the input signals is having of size 1 to 256, this size initially. When before the feature extraction stage, the original input signal is having the length of 1 cross 256. And after going through the feature classification stage, it is reduced to 1 cross 18 only. And then after, it is actually the input layer of the backpropagation neural networks, and the hidden layers are there. There are two type you means there you can choose the number of hidden layer either based on the hit and trial method, or you can go for the optimization techniques like PSO, artificial bee colony, ant colony, like GA, genetic algorithm, bacterial foraging. There are different techniques. Either you can optimally tune using the optimization algorithms, or you have to go for the manually hit and try. So that's why I have discussed earlier also, before going to the hardware, all of the methods what we have proposed have been simulated in MATLAB to test out its performance. Regarding what is the efficiency, how much time training time it takes, how much testing time it takes. So these are the actually this is all about the mathematics, how we have implemented the feature extraction and implemented the neural networks. Just I will give a glimpse. These were the training and testing data sets. So whenever if anyone is interested to perform some kind of experiments, you will find that there are certain number of files which have been designated using the numbers like 105, 113, and they belong to a particular category. And there are chances like there are some kind of arrhythmias also associated to the files. So you have to separate those signals from the files. So the number of bits for the normal class taken for this work were 10,000, for training 5,000, and 50% of them were taken as training and 50% of them were taken as the testing for the different classes. So in total, I believe in this work we have taken for 8 classes. And the accuracy for this purpose was 97.4%, having sensitivity of 97.57 and specificity of 99.59. So this was another method using the DOST and the least square support vector machines. These are the one-dimensional methods, and it is to note that as it is, we can't implement on the images. For image, you have to go for two-dimensional processing techniques. And these techniques also have their two-dimensional structures form. There are mathematical formulations for these feature extraction for the images also. Same is the case here also. Here we can see the hardware results actually, what we have obtained from the DSO, digital storage oscilloscope. So after applying the filters, there were different kind of noises associated to them, and the filter signal can be seen in the right. And this is the mathematical formulation what we have developed. And this is all about the support vector machines. Basically, a support vector machine was initially developed for the binary class classification. This is an extension of the support vector machine, as its name is twin support vector machines. So in the previous case, in the support vector machines, there was a single hyperplane separating the two classes. In this, we have two non-parallel hyperplanes which will separate the different classes. And these are the different steps involved in tuning the parameters of the support vector machines, as we have seen earlier. And in implementing the least square support vector machine, RBF kernel has been used, and tenfold cross validation has been used, and the parameters of the classifiers are optimized using the least square support vector machines using the, and the parameters were taken in the range of 2 to the power minus 5 to 2 to the power of 10 and 2 to the power of minus 10 to 2. So using this optimization technique, you are capable of determining the optimal parameters for the classifiers in the machine learning. But on the other hand, you are increasing the computational complexity of the algorithm. Means the output will be not obtained in real time. So what I have did is, in the simulation part, I have obtained the parameters of the classifiers, and only testing is being done in the real time. Only testing part is done in the real time, and the rest of the things are same. Only the feature extraction and the classification methods have been changed. And this, in this work, we have obtained an accuracy of 96.28%. And there were two schemes actually, the class-based assessment scheme and the personalized scheme, where the personalized scheme is more beneficial for the patients because there are chances of biasing in the class-based scheme, since the maybe if you are doing a class-based assessment, then the device or the model which you are developing may not be practically suited for a patient. But if you are developing on the basis of the personalized scheme, means you are trying to train your model based on the data of the persons. You are not dividing the data based on the classes, as we have seen earlier. So this paper was published in Nature Scientific Reports, and again, one feature extraction method was proposed based on the DCT based DOST. So its prime aim was to change the kernel, and it has been, in place of FFT, a DCT based algorithm is used to gather the positive frequencies, and the execution time to process 30 seconds of ECG data was approximately 2.45 seconds. And again, the twin support vector machines has been used, and they are optimized using the artificial bee colony method. And we have achieved an accuracy of 96.14%. And this work was published in IEEE Transaction on Instrumentation and Measurement. Now comes the deep learning part. The best, I should say, if someone want to start from scratch, he should go for the deep learning methods, since the Python libraries are very rich. Initially, it was very difficult to write 5,000, 25,000, 30,000 lines of code in C++. So this work has been done in the Python language, and it has also been implemented on the Raspberry Pi processor. So we can have also a glimpse regarding the convolutional neural network, the deep learning method. So it is a special type of deep learning method which uses a set of filters and the convolution operator to reduce the number of parameters. So what is the difference between the previous techniques and this technique is, we were using separate machine learning algorithms like artificial neural networks or support vector machines, or there are other types of classifiers available also, like I should say the clustering approaches and random forest classifiers. But in case of neural networks, a single algorithm will extract the features from the input signals, and they will classify into the different categories automatically using a single algorithm. You don't have to use two different algorithms for feature extraction and classifications. That is the advantage of the deep learning approach. However, to increase the performance, you may use a separate classifier that depends on uh, the designer of the algorithms. So the optimizer used in this case was the Adam optimizer. The epochs were taken as 100, and this is the basically the full architecture of the CNN algorithm. Finally, what we have did is, out of the implemented algorithms, whatever the algorithms which we have developed, regarding the feature extraction or the machine learning algorithms. We have taken the efficient one and we have implemented that efficient algorithm which has reported the highest accuracy and which involved the lower number of computations. That has been implemented on this fabricated device. So this was device in using the Eagle software, and the design, the Gerber file which was generated was outsourced to a company based Ahmedabad for final fabrication, since we don't have the fabrication facility in-house. And the dimension of this whole device was 90.2 mm by 60.83 mm. And again, the prototype was tested using the same method. The function generator, the signals were taken, and the fabricated device, the input were taken to the ADC of the processor, and the output was displayed on the 16x2 LCD, and it has been, the different kind of signals were displayed on the digital oscilloscope. So this was all about the different methods and contributions. There are several limitations also, but the main limitation is regarding the its validation in the medical point of view or in the hospital until it has to be deployed for public use. So I should, I think, stop here. So if you have some questions, I would love to answer them.
Thank you very much, Sandeep sir. As I said, and this was an honor for this webinar series to have the first talk on the domain AI for healthcare by Dr. Sandeep Raj, who has done immense amount of work on it. And his talk truly justifies it. And due to time constraint, we had to finish early. Anyhow, thank you very much again, sir, for accepting our offer and giving the talk today. Now we will open for some doubts, clarification from participants, if any. You can ask by unmuting yourself, or you can type in the chat box. Sandeep sir, if I request if you could, because there were many participants who had queried us for AI for healthcare, and
Yes,
if you
sir.
can put down your mail ID or anything, if they could
Yes,
interact.
sir. I am just. This is my email ID. I think I got too detailed, but I will just take one more minute to have a better understanding regarding this figure. If I have some, if you have questions, meanwhile you can answer.
Sir, I have one question. I don't know about much about that ECG data which you have explained. Whether that when we receive the raw data from doctors, whether this is in EDF format, this is also support EDF format.
Ma'am, actually it is online database, and you can access the data in text format, .txt format. Means you can, if you
does it
actually
require any time annotation also in that ECG
yes,
data?
ma'am. All of the information has been provided in that database.
So how means I'm talking about when we are receiving that raw data from any doctors. So how we receive that data means the clinical experts, they are not very much good into formatting, providing the appropriate format. So do they provide the data, annotated data, time event data mapping with the raw data?
Ma'am, that depends on the, obviously the doctors. If they are interested, they will give you. If they are not, they will not.
So in that case, what we are supposed to do means if we are not having that time annotated data,
Then what I have done is, you can go for the online database. Actually, it is a real-time data of the patients only. The MIT data. They have a regular timestamps of all the data. At this time, this abnormality was occurring. At this time, a different rhythm was there. what was its morphology, and everything is in discretized form. Means you can just, means they have sampled the database, they have filtered also, and you can go to the database and you can train your own model, and you
Okay.
can go for validation at the hospitals.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, sir. So, any more questions? Otherwise, we'll end for today. Okay, great. So, thank you very much, sir. Thank you once again. As I said, it has been an honor for this webinar series, and we look forward, as in my personal capacity and CTech look forwards, and to have some joint research collaboration with you and the IIIT Bharat. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
And participants, we will join next Saturday, same time, 10:45 a.m. The talk would be given by Mr. Meg Makwana from NVIDIA on the role of CUDA. So looking forward for all of you to join in again. Thank you all.